Void Mage Gamer is now partnered with Flipside Gaming, so you can use the promo code on their website, all caps, Void Mage, to get 10% off all orders $10 or more. It's a great way that you can support both Flipside Gaming and Void Mage Gamer's channel. Hello guys, welcome back to another Commander Top 10 video. This time we're going to be going with the Grixis cards. A lot of people love Grixis in Commander. There's a lot of very popular Commander options that you can go with. You're going to see a lot of things that fool around with discard, and also there's the affinity for the graveyard, which not a lot of people realize that about Grixis. You do have a lot of Commander options that either bring back instants or sorceries from your graveyard, creatures, or just fool around with abilities from the graveyard. But you can expect to see a lot of different Commanders with different strategies on this list. And of course, you can also expect to see a certain dragon maybe a few times. But as always, we're going to start off the video with honorable mentions, and Thraximundar is a longtime Commander favorite for a lot of people. A big, hasty creature that has a decent attack trigger. It was a lot of fun a while ago, but a lot of time has passed since I viewed Thraximundar as an actual Commander threat. We've been given a lot more support over the years, and for me, he's just fallen out of favor. But every now and then, I do feel like throwing him into some of my other decks. Then we have Anala Archmage Ritualist from Commander 2017. Coming out of a deck that was kind of jam-packed of awkward stuff, all over the place themes. I really do like Inala, but I feel like the only way that you're going to make this deck good is if you go for the combos, because other than that, Wizards as a tribe, they're not that strong. And the copy, the ETB thing, that is almost designed specifically to combo. There's just a lot of shenanigans involved, but ultimately though, I like being able to fool around in different ways with my commanders, and if it turns out I'm only really having fun playing with it one way, I'm willing to acknowledge that other people may not view her the same way as I do. And then we have Nicol Bolas the Ravager, and the flip Planeswalker version, which is the Arisen. Almost made the list, but to be honest, you do invest a lot of mana in order to get that Planeswalker, which is really what's worth it here. He enters the battlefield, each opponent's going to discard a card. That's cool when you want to trigger other things like Liliana's Caress or a Waste Not, but aside from that, you just have a 4/4 flyer, so not really that intimidating, but rest assured, there will be other Nicol Bolas Planeswalkers on this list. So let's start it off here with number 10, which is Cedrus the Traitor King. I just mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's going to be synergies with the graveyard. Cedrus the Traitor King is really unique, the only legendary creature that synergizes with the Unearth keyword. In this kind of way, you're able to bring back your other creatures from your graveyard. He makes a pretty cool zombie commander. If you want to go in Grixis colors, you could also go with Thraximundar, but I feel like Unearth synergizes a lot better with zombies. Cedrus could also be another combo commander, allowing you to add other tutors in your deck like Buried Alive and Entomb, and there's a lot of 2-card combos that you can go with in Grixis. Being able to unearth them the following turn is pretty disgusting, but other than that, he doesn't see too much play, so he's really on this list because of the Unearth keyword, and being really the only commander that we have that does anything like this. Number 9, we have Nicol Bolas God Pharaoh. I really do love this Nicol Bolas. He might actually be the only Nicol Bolas that is actually closest to the original Planeswalker, because you do have all quality abilities here, especially that plus that forces each opponent to exile 2 cards from their hand. That is ridiculous. But you also have some pretty cool abilities that you can steal a card from your opponent's deck. You do have decent removal on a minus, and that ult is just absolutely devastating. It's probably the best ult that we have on a Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. The only difference between this and the original Planeswalker is that the ult is a little bit slower to get to. The original Nicol Bolas, it only really took you 2 turns to get to the ult. This one is going to take you at least 3 turns unless you have any other proliferate mechanics just to cheat him up there a little bit, but overall very powerful. Number 8 is Marchesa the Black Rose, a commander favorite for a lot of people, and Dethrone is a very unique mechanic, so kind of like Cedrus in the sense that we're going to fool around with something that you're not going to see anywhere else. And another graveyard-centered deck here. Creatures with +1/+1 counters on them dying, they will come back, and she does give all of your other creatures dethroned, so she's a great enabler for her own ability. You can go in different directions with her. You could fool around with +1/+1 counters as a whole, or you could play Grixis ETBs. There's a lot of good ETB creatures, such as Muldrifter, Disciple of Bolas, in these colors that you can go with. But I always liked Marchesa because she is really good if you want to play a good old-fashioned commander deck and you don't need to combo. Sometimes all you want to do is turn sideways. I think having a commander that rewards you for doing that is really cool. Number 7 is Cruel Ultimatum. I love this card. It's probably my favorite ultimatum because it allows you to be incredibly spiteful towards one player. It's usually whoever's ahead in the game. They're going to discard 3 cards, they're going to lose 5 life, they're going to sacrifice a creature, you're pretty much going to do the opposite. You get a lot of advantage here. Would have been a lot better if it affected multiple opponents, but it is at least going to get you some card draw. It's going to let you get a creature back to your hand, so that alone is pretty good. You could kind of dismantle what your opponent is trying to do at the same time, and these cards are pretty big plays. The ultimatums, while all of them aren't necessarily great, Cruel Ultimatum is a big play, and you do look for big plays in Commander. Number 6 is Jeleva Nephalius Scourge. A favorite for a lot of Storm players, being able to get a free casting of an instant or sorcery is usually a pretty good setup for the rest of your turn. But even if you don't want to go with Storm, she's a pretty good option, because I always enjoy fooling around with my opponent's decks, being able to cast stuff from their decks instead of just mine. It opens up a world of possibilities, but as opposed to the graveyard decks that we've seen so far, she's a pretty good representation of what Grixis also does pretty well, and that's spell casting. If you want to make an instant or sorcery based deck, you can kind of see now how Grixis has embraced the Izzet color pairing within. I will say a downside is that you do have to attack with her, so do keep that in mind. Number 5, I have Mercel the Pretender. Easily the most creative commander option on this list, which is why I'm putting him up so high. I always like commanders that allow you to play with cards that you probably never played with before with any other commander. And having activated abilities all on the same creature is incredibly fun to fool around with. Yes, you can only activate them once a turn, but there are ways of getting around that. There's just a ton of activated abilities on artifacts and creatures to take advantage of. Not all of them have to combo. Mercel is known for having some pretty cool and janky combos, so when you pull them off, it feels that more rewarding. You do have some pretty interesting ones, like with the Pack Rat combo, where you have an enabler where you can continue to exile other cards. You have things like Crystal Shard. There's a lot of ways that you can bounce them back to your hand, replay them again, exile more stuff. And in a lot of ways, it can function like a toolbox commander, where all you really need is just to get some sort of removal onto him and then get some more card draw. Get whatever you feel like you need into your graveyard, exile it, and then Mercel has that ability. Incredibly creative commander option. Definitely deserves to be on this list. Number 4, we have Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. Talked about him before, but he is still one of the better Nicol Bolas Planeswalkers that we have. You have removal on a plus, which you just don't really see that anywhere else. Still sees play in just about every Super Friends deck, Grixis deck, because that is so strong, combined with the minus of being able to gain control of a creature permanently. And when I was talking about the God Pharaoh, it only really takes you 2 turns to get to this guy's ult. And once you do, it's kind of like Cruel Ultimatum on steroids, because you're really going to punish them and take them out of the game. Dealing 7 damage to them, they're going to discard 7 cards and then sacrifice 7 permanents. That is pretty much a knockout punch. While he doesn't have as many abilities, he has 3 versus 4 on the God Pharaoh. Just the power on those abilities is the reason why Nicol Bolas Planeswalker is still one of the better ones. But notice how I didn't call him the best? That's because the newest card, the newest Nicol Bolas card anyway, the Dragon God from War of the Spark that is coming out here soon, is absolutely mind-blowing. First off, you get something that is really unusual that we haven't seen before in an actual passive, so you don't even have to worry about the loyalty abilities. He already does something when he's on the field. He has all loyalty abilities of all other planeswalkers on the battlefield, your opponents included. So think about all the powerful abilities I mentioned on the previous Nicol Bolases. Those all apply to this guy, as long as they're on the battlefield, of course. If your opponents have planeswalkers with crazy ults, you get to use their ultimate abilities as well. His plus is pretty good. You get to draw a card, each opponent exiling a card from their hand or permanent they control. I mean, that's okay. It's not fantastic, but the main bonus here is that you are drawing a card. Minus is good removal of a creature or a planeswalker, and the ult is pretty devastating if you do get to it. Each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or planeswalker loses the game. This one is a game winner. You do have to hope that most of your opponents don't have a legendary creature or planeswalker, but it shouldn't really be that difficult to wipe the board and then activate the ability. And I haven't even mentioned the best part yet. This guy's only 4 mana compared to the previous ones that were 7, 8. This guy's only 4, and he gives you a ton of value. Insane abilities. It could really be any ability. So ridiculous addition to Grixis here. And in my opinion, for Commander at least, he's the best Nicol Bolas Planeswalker. Number 2, we have Kess Dissident Mage. A huge standout in competitive EDH, and I feel like a better version of Jeleva, even though you do have to pay the cost of that card you're going to cast. I just feel like for a lot of decks, it's easier to do what you want to do with Kess than it is for Jeleva, because you're already going to have some good cantrips, some wheels in your graveyard, and a big problem with spells matter kind of decks, Storm decks, is not being able to recover after your opponents stop you, or let's say you hit a wall in the middle of your turn and you're not able to continue. Being able to replay those spells on your following following turn is pretty good, and Kess does allow you to do that. And if you really need another board wipe, she allows you to hit Damnation again, she allows you to Blasphemous Act again. Really strong commander. Being able to recycle spells is always good in Commander. And then we have number 1, which is honestly probably my favorite Grixis card. I know it's still a lot of people's favorite. Nekosar the Mind Razor. I don't think there's a single card, I don't even think there's a single Planeswalker that just warps the board around itself like Nekosar. The entire game suddenly revolves around him. Everything has to do with him. People don't like him, some people enjoy it, some people don't mind losing the life for card draw, but he himself has started a strategy of wheel and dealing that we haven't really seen before in Commander 2013. Used to think that giving your opponents extra card advantage wasn't such a good thing, but if you're able to punish them for each card they're drawing, also punishing them for each card they're discarding in those wheels, it's just a fantastic strategy, incredibly unique to Grixis colors, and he has been one of the most powerful and dominant commander options since Commander 2013. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Nekosar. They just don't like that. They hate that burn for card draw. He instantly draws removal in a lot of play groups, but I still think he's one of the more entertaining commander options that you can go with. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know what you think about the top 10 Grixis commander cards. What are your favorite? You all have a wonderful day. Void here signing off. See you all next video.